Now.
Okay, hello everyone. Firstly, let me begin by thanking Deepti ma'am and the entire team of Mahattattva for giving me this opportunity. Um, I am Shahila Chandrashekhar from BK Birla Public School, Kalyan. I am a Google Level 1 and Level 2 certified educator. I'm also Microsoft certified educator, and I love teaching. So that's about me. Today we are here uh, uh, to learn about a very important and a very popular tool for educators, and that is Google Forms. Google Forms are extensively used by educators for a variety of purposes, for quizzes, for surveys, for assessments. And of late, a lot of things that we get to hear about the assessment pattern and need to change the assessment pattern and all of that, how formative assessments, summative assessments, all of it is important. And more importantly, formative assessments, because the focus is more on assessment for learning and as learning, and not as much on assessment of learning. So, and also the shift from, wanting to make assessments stress free and all of that. I think, friends, is possible only when assessment is not taken in isolation, but it is embedded and integrated in the learning process. Unlike the normal trend wherein we want to teach, we want to finish a particular unit and then conduct a small assessment to find out whether the learners have understood or not. That is really not going to help. More so in the online medium, because I've heard a lot of educators always telling that we are doing a lot, but we are not very sure whether the students are getting it, whether they're able to understand or not. So the simplest solution to that would be to have smaller assessments embedded in your learning process. So on that note, I am going to actually ask Puchika to share my screen, and we will begin with Google Forms today. And I would also like to thank everyone who's joined in today for this particular session. Towards the end of the session, somewhere around when it is 15 minutes to the end of the session, the feedback link will be shared in the chat. I would request all of you to give your feedback. That will really help me to improve myself. Okay, and if there are any queries, feel free to put it in the chat and I'll try to answer it. Puchika, please share my screen. Okay. So this is how we go about for today's session. So we're going to be talking about Google Forms and understanding how to create a Google Form, how to add images and videos, and also how do we analyze the responses that we get, and how Google Forms give us automatic summaries. Okay, so that is what we are going to be seeing in today's session. A little bit of details of how I'm going to go ahead with the session today. First, we will see how to create a Google form, then how to edit or add different types of questions in Google Forms, how to embed a video, what are the various form settings, and how do we use Google Forms for feedback, how we can do grading, how do we convert a normal form into a quiz, how do we send it to the respondents or to the learners or users, and how do we collect the response, and what should be the response destination, and how do we view the responses. So this is what we are going to see today in the session that's going to be for about an hour. With that, let me now go straight to how to create a Google form. Okay, so there are different ways of creating a Google form. What we're going to do is I'm going to list all of that to you. But before I go for it, you know for sure that as educators, we use Google Form for a variety of purposes. It could be to gather students' information, personal information that we need to have. It could be to collect feedback from parents, from students about an event. You want to get consent from the parents for a particular event, or it could be just simple quizzes and assessments for your teaching learning purposes. So a variety of ways in which Google Forms can be used. I think I've said enough about the applications of the use of Google Forms. So with that, we would see how to create a Google Form. So there are different ways to do that. The simplest way is, this is your Gmail. You go to the waffle or the 9 dots that you see to the extreme right here, which is also called as the app launcher. You click on that and then look for, amongst the various Google tools, you have Google Forms here. So you click on that. So that's how you open the Google Forms page. Okay, so this is how it opens. This was one method. The other method of accessing your Google Form would be through your Google Drive. So you go to your Drive. So this is your Google Drive. Click on New. Click on More. And you have a variety of options again. So look for Google Forms and select that. So you could also do it like this. And the third and the easiest way again is go and type in forms.google.com. So here you see, it opens up the Google Forms page. So there are three ways in which you can access Google Forms. You may choose any which ways that you feel comfortable with. So I'm going to go to this page and show you. Okay, I'll close some of the tabs because a lot of tabs are open. All right. Here. So, as you can see here, Google Forms already give you a lot of templates, ready-made templates. So if I click on this, these are a whole lot of templates on various topics or various aspects. You may choose the one which you find appropriate and then make changes as per your needs, and you could use it directly. If you don't want to use any of these templates, you could go ahead and create your own form. I'll repeat again. You have a whole lot of templates on various topics. You can see here about feedback, job application, assessment, exit ticket, and all of that. You may either choose any one of that and make the changes, or you could go and create your own form. To create your own form, you click on plus. So this is how I create my Google form. So this is the page that opens. The first thing obviously is going to be titling it. So I'm going to the left-hand corner here and giving it a title. So let me name it as Bootcamp Session on Forms. So this is the title. So you can give whatever title that you want to. It could be the name of a topic or whatever you feel appropriate. So I click it here. So I automatically get this here. After that, I see the moment the form's title is created, there are some more icons that came up. This is if you want this form to be saved in a particular folder in your drive, in your Google Drive, you could click on this and save it in the respective folder that you want it to be saved. And this star that you see here will star it, meaning that you'll be able to easily access it. All the starred files and folders will be put together. So for easy access, you could star it. That means you like this and you would like to access it more frequently. That is the meaning of it. So right now, I'm not going to click on star. Then this is the title of the form that we gave. Here, I'm going to write the form description. So normally we would like to give some description to our students. So let me say, I'll keep it simple. Maybe kindly fill out this form. You could write whatever details that you would want to give. And then we will go for the first question. So as you can see here, the first question by default is a multiple choice question. Okay, so it's not necessary that you need to go ahead with a multiple choice question. You can decide whatever you want to. So let's say I want to first get the name of the student. So let's say name. Okay, and the moment I write name, I want it to be a short answer question. And then you see that the format changes here. So here the students will be able to write their name. So as you can see here, you have a whole lot of options of questions that you could add, right from short answer to paragraph or long answer questions to multiple choice to check boxes, drop down, file upload, linear scale, multiple choice grid, tick box grid, date and time. So you have a whole lot of options for making different types of questions and giving it to the learners. So this is one question that I created, that is just to get the name of the respondent. Okay, and I will know that it's going to be a short answer. So I selected a short answer type. Now, when you look at the other options that is available with this question here, this will allow me to copy this question again. Okay, I'll tell you the use of that a little later. So this is if I want to delete it. And this slider, if I turn it on, this would be a required question, meaning the students or the respondents will not be able to submit the form unless and until they answer this question. So this is a required question. So you can either keep it on or off depending upon your requirement. Okay. And then you have some other options here like description. If you want to add any more descriptions to the question that you're asking, you click on that. So you can have a description that could be added here. Right now, I don't need it, so I'm unselecting it because with name, I don't want any description. Then you also have response validation. So this is again a very important tool, an important aspect, wherein you can decide. Now, name is definitely not going to be a number. So if you're asking for their age or for their telephone number, you know that it has to be a number. And in case they type in a text, you can send in a message through this saying that, okay, let's say, because it's name, so I'm keeping it as text. And you could also decide the length of the answers. So how do we use it in our class? If you're giving students a question and you want them to answer on that, and if you want to ensure that students answer it, in a required number of words, you want them to be precise with their answer. In that case, you could also decide on the maximum character count. So you can keep it as 100 or 200, whatever is your requirement. Right now, I don't think from this particular question, I need to add anything of that sort. So I am going to remove that. So this was my first question, which is the name of the student. I will now go for the next one. So how do we add the next question? So you see a panel here on the right hand side. So on this panel, you have a plus sign which says add question. It is self-explanatory. The next you have import questions. Import questions means if you already have some forms created and you want to pick questions directly from those forms that you have created, even that would be possible. We will see this a little later. Text, this would be to add a little bit of title or description if you want to add to your form. This is to add image, this is to add video, and this is to add a section. We would be seeing each of these a little later. But then before that, whenever I prepare forms for my students for quizzes or for assessments, I like to make it a little attractive. So you can change the theme. So you have a whole lot of options here. So right up there on the right hand side, you have this palette icon. If you click on that, so there are a lot of color options that you see. I could change the color according to what I want to, or I can also have a header. Okay, so let me see what are the options that are available for the header. So I click on this. So you have a variety of options. Either you may select any one of these, or you could upload one which you have saved on your device. Even that is possible. So right now, so you can have the image of maybe your class, your school, that also could be added. So right now I'm going with the themes which are already available, and I'm picking the first one. And I say insert. So you see how beautiful my form looks now. And then you can also change the background color if you want to. And there are some font options as well. I would like to keep it basic because I don't want to have all those different forms. It's always better to keep it basic. But then again, depending upon your requirement, you can select that. So that's about the theme. I'll close this now. And this gear button that you see here, that is the settings. Then this is for sending the form across to the respondents, to your students. And then you see, when I click on these three dots, the ellipsis, I again see a whole lot of options. We would be seeing that a little later. So right now what you've seen is how to add a title. We've seen what is this, a folder wherein you can save your form, you can start it, you can, that means you liked it, you started. Then how to add the title, how to add the question. The first question is what I've explained it to you, how to add a header to it, and how to change the theme. This is what we've seen so far. So this is the first question that I've added. I'm now going to add the second question. To do that, as I said, click on the plus sign. I click on that. And I have the second question. Now I need to decide what kind of a question do I want. So I want to have this as a multiple choice question. So let me say, which of these is a protein? I'm just taking a general example. And then I say casein, triglycerides, fats. You may add as many options that you want to. So this is a multiple choice question. And if I want to make it required, I want all my students to answer this. I'll keep the slider on. Okay, so let me see how this question is going to look like. So how is my form going to look like? I can always check that by going on this icon, icon, the preview icon that is there at the top right here. Okay, so I click on that. So you see that this will exactly show me how is my form going to look like for my learners. This is how it is going to look. So this is my header, this is my title, this is where the students are going to enter their names, and this is my multiple choice question. So you know that whatever is the answer, so in this case, let's say casein is the answer. So there's just one correct answer for this. So that is why you went in for a multiple choice question. So I'm going to now close this and come back to my form. So I've added the second question. I'm going to now add the third question. And what kind of a question would I want this to? I want this to be a checkbox. Okay, so what is a checkbox question? So let me add the same one again. So which of these is a protein, let's say. So now you see, instead of a circle here, it is a checkbox. Let me add casein again. The second one, maybe albumin. Add triglycerides. And the fourth one, let's say fats. So now in this case, there are two correct answers. So when there are more than one correct answer, you could go for the checkbox option. Okay, so I'm again going to make this a required question. And let's see how this looks. So I go to the preview icon, and here it is. So like the earlier question, wherein only one response I could select, here you see which of these is a protein, casein, and albumin. So I'm able to select more than one option. So that is the advantage of going for this kind of a question, that is check boxes. Now I'm going to show you the next one. What is the advantage of this duplicate button? Okay, so let me copy this question again. So I want a copy of this question, so I click on this. So I see that I had the same question copied again. So in this case, what could I do is I just want to change this to which of these is a fact. So you know that the options, I didn't have to type it again. I just made changes to the question. So that's how simple it is with this option of copy the question. So you could use it in a variety of ways that you think will be appropriate. So I've added the checkbox question. Let me go to the next one. And the next one is going to be drop down. So drop down again is very simple. So what is, I'm going to keep it very simple so that I save time. 3 plus 5. And the options are, let's say 7, 8, and add as many, 5. And let's see how this looks. So here it goes. So you can see the drop down, it appears like this, 3 plus 5, and the students have to select the option. So this is how it is. We go to the next question. I'm back on my form. Yes. I add another one. And let's go for the other type of question. File upload. This is again very, very useful. I'm going to click on this and tell you the use of file upload question. So I click on this, I select this. It says files will be uploaded to the form owner's Google Drive, and the respondents will be required to sign in to Google when file upload questions are added to the form. So when I add this kind of a question to my form, my students will have to sign in into Google. Okay, only then they'll be able to answer this kind of a question. So what is the importance of this kind of a question? Let's say a lot of times we want students to, particularly in maths and science, wherein you want them to draw a diagram, or in maths you want them to solve, and you want to check as a teacher whether they are arriving at the solution after, through proper steps. So you want them to write, and you want them to share an image with you of how they've arrived at the answer. So in that case, you can go in for a file upload question. So I am going to go ahead with continue to show you how it appears, which means that all the files that we will be uploaded by the students will be saved in my Google Drive. Okay. So that is why it said that it will be saved in your Google Drive. So now here I can say, let me take a question, draw a diagram of the human digestive system, let's say. And I want them to upload the picture to me. So this also gives me these options, allow only specific file types. So if I select this, it will allow me to select what kind of files will the students be allowed to upload. Okay, so if you want to restrict them to upload only a PDF document, or you want them to upload only image, you could select that. So they would be able to upload only an image or a PDF. Again, you could decide the number of files that each student will be able to upload. So sometimes if there are if there is a lengthy question wherein students have written it on 2 or 3 pages, and they've taken 3 or 4 images together and they want to upload that, so you could decide maybe 5 file per student, and also the size limit of the file you could set it. So right now I'm setting it to 100 MB. And if I want this to be a required question, I want all my students to answer this for sure, without which they'll not be able to submit the form, then I select on required. So this is how you'll be able to get students work directly in the form of an image or a drawing, a presentation, a spreadsheet, a video, an audio, whole lot of options. Okay, so this is how, what is the importance of an upload type of a question, extremely useful. Okay, so this is the upload type of question. I'm now going to go to the next type of question, and that is the linear scale. It's like your rating scale. So I'm going to select the range from 1 to 5. You could also change the range to 1 to 10 or anything that you want to. I'm keeping it as 1 to 5. So how, just to keep it simple, how would you rate this session? So let's say satisfactory, and let's say 5 stands for excellent. And if it is a required question, let me see the preview now. I click on the eye icon and you see it like this. So 1 stands for satisfactory, and this is a rating scale going up to 5 for excellent. So this is the linear scale. We go to the next one, and the next one is multiple choice grid. This is again a very, very important aspect for teachers, because a lot of times we face this challenge that we're not able to add maybe match the column kind of questions in our assessments, okay, in the online mode. So there is a simple solution to that in Google Forms. So let's say I'm taking multiple choice grid. So I would say pick the appropriate options, and let me decide what will be the rows and what will be the columns. So let's say India, cups, honesty, and honest. I'm going to add in the columns now. So let me take common noun, maybe an adjective, abstract noun, and a proper noun. So this is what I've added in my rows and columns, and this I'm sure you would all want to see how it looks. So here it goes. So this is how it is. So for India, so you select, and because it is a multiple choice question, you'll be able to select only one option. All right. So cups, common noun, honesty, abstract, and likewise. Okay. So that is how you go for multiple choice grid. Now, if you go for the other option, that is tick box grid, I already told you the difference would be if there are more than one correct answers. In that case, you could go for more than one option that you want your learners to pick. You could go for the tick box grid. Okay, so I think I can go for one question of that type also. All right, so tick box grid. What is your preferred food? Let's say. In the rows, let me add for breakfast, for lunch. So we're taking the students for some field trip somewhere outside. How much we want to do that? And dinner. And we want to know what would they like to have. So let's say bread. I'm randomly adding something. Salads. Maybe meat. And let's see how this looks. Here. So you see here, so for breakfast, students would prefer to have bread, salads, and meat. So that's how it is. So when you have more than one options, which you would want your respondents to give, so you go for this type of a question. So we have discussed almost all the type of questions here and date. As simple as that. If you click on date, it would ask you to fill in the date in the format of DD, MM, YY, and time again. So if you want them to fill in the time, even that option is there. So these are the different types of questions that can be added. Okay. Now the next thing that I'm going to show is here. So I said, if you want to import a question, so you've made a lot of forms earlier, and you want to select some of the questions from your earlier form. So I click on this, and now it's going to take me to all the forms that I have created, and maybe I'll go for this one. Select nutrition and exercise. Select that. So these are the questions that I've added to my form on nutrition and exercise. And let's say I select this one. I want to import this question. Import questions. I may select more than one also. I am now showing you how to import just one question here. So I click on this. So you see here. So from my earlier form, this question is already added to my new form. So that's the advantage of import questions. Saves your time. You can add questions directly from your earlier forms. The next thing is add image. So it's always better to make your quizzes and assessments interesting, because I think unless and until you make it interesting for the students, you would never be able to get that stress-free exam that we always look for. So it is always important. It's again up to the creativity of the educator, like in what way do you want it to be a thought-provoking question, or do you want it to be interesting in terms of videos or images that you want to add. But then, as I said, they always add value to your quizzes and assessments. So I'm going to show now how to add an image. So I click on this image icon here. You have a lot of options. You can either upload it from your device if you have the image saved in your device, or you can go to the Google Drive, your drive if you have it in your drive, or even web search. Okay, so right now I'm going to browse it from my device, and I have one saved for today's session. So you see here, the image is added to my form. I can say identify this historic event. I can also adjust the image to the center, or if I want it to be aligned to the right, I will be able to do that. Okay, so I am going to add a question based on this, or I could just write image or picture based questions here, and then add what is the significance of this day. And I want it to be a paragraph question. So you see, I add an image and I ask questions. You can ask one, you can ask two, three, as many questions on the image that you have shared. I will now show you how to add a video. So for adding a video, you have this option here of adding video. So I click on that. So you can select the video that you want your students to watch and answer questions based on that. Maybe I'm going to ask questions on digestive system. I'm going to go for a small video, maybe this one. Select, and here you go. So I'm going to write, watch the video and answer the questions that follow. And then add as many questions that you want to. So this is how you add a video. The last option that I'm going to talk about here is add section. So when I click on this, it will allow you to add a section. So all these questions that I've created so far, they are all part of section 1. And then if I want to break my form into sections, maybe I could divide it into section 1 were plain questions, section 2 had image-based questions, section 3 has video-based questions. So that you could do with the help of section-based questions. So this is my second section. I could give it a title, maybe video-based questions. So sections are very, very useful for a number of reasons. Let's say you have quite a lot of information to be gathered from your respondents. So your form is going to be really lengthy. So at one go, if they scroll down to your form, through the form, a lot of questions that they get to see, it may seem like, oh my God, too many questions to answer. So what you could do is you could break it into sections. So maybe first they have 3 questions and then they fill that up, and then it will go to section 2. So I'll just show this to you, how this looks. So here it is. So you see here. So all of this was section 1. And after they fill in section 1, then it would ask them to go to the next one, and which would be section 2. Now in this case, because this is a required question, you see that it is not allowing the respondent to move to the next question. So this is what is the importance of a required question. So your learners have to answer this. They cannot submit without answering. Okay, so that is about section-based questions. Another important use of section-based question is you could create your form in a manner that, like, let's say, how do I show that? Okay, let me add one question. Show it to you. So let's say here. So if this is a question that I've created, and I am going to add a section after this. So let's say my students are going to answer it 3 plus 5. Let's say some of them answer it as 7. So I will be able to add here that after section 1, so depending upon their responses, I would be able to take them to the next section. Do I want them to go to section 1 or section 2? So you could actually create your forms in a manner that, depending upon the responses that they give, you would be able to direct them to the required section. So in this case, after section 1, it says by default go to next question, but you'll be able to direct them to the next question. So that would add a little bit of interactivity also to your form. So that is about section-based questions. So I think I've taken all the types of questions that could be added to Google Forms. After this, I've explained this, that is your preview icon. Then we would go for the next thing, and the next thing would be, let me just check. We've checked how to create a Google form, how to edit and add different types of questions, how to embed a video. Form settings is what we are left to do. Using Google Forms for feedback, and how do we convert it into a quiz? We're going to see that now. And send a Google form to users. How do we send it? That we will see. And choose a response destination and view response. This is what we're going to see. Okay, so first let me go to the setting icon. Okay, so this is the gear icon that we see. I click on this, and you can see there are 3 setting options. General. The first thing that you see is collect emails. So if I click on this, this form would want the respondents to fill in their email IDs. So that entirely depends on you. Whether you want the responses to be anonymous, in that case, you don't need to select this. You don't want to know from which email ID is this form sent. So in that case, you need not select this. Otherwise, in case you want to know their email IDs, you select this. So automatically the email ID option will be added to your form. Okay, so right now I'm not selecting it. Okay, let me select this. Then whether you want the respondents to respond only once, whether you want them to want it to be limited to only one response, or do you want them to take the quiz as many number of times. So if it is just a practice quiz, you would want the respondents to answer as many times that they want to. So first time they submit, probably they made some mistakes, they want to take the test again, they would be able to do that. But if it is a proper assessment and you don't want them to take the quiz again, in that case, you will click on limit to one response. So each student will be able to only give one response to this particular form that you have created. In that case, they'll have to sign into Google. Do you want your respondents to edit after submission? This, in most of the cases, we don't want them to do, because as far as our day-to-day assessments are concerned, I don't think this is needed. But in some cases, if you're asking for certain information from the students, collecting some kind of responses, and you want them to edit it and resubmit it, in that case, you could click on this. Okay. And you could also select on this if you want your students to see the summary charts and the text responses. Okay. So these are the different options that you get. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on save here and go back. Now this is what I saw, the general setting. I'm going now to the presentation setting. So whether you want at the end of the form to see the progress bar, do you want to shuffle the question order? So each respondent will have a different order of the questions. Even that is possible. You could customize your confirmation message, thank you for submitting your responses, or anything that you want to add. That could be also done. Again, don't forget to save the settings. Okay. Now, this is a simple form. I prepared it in the form of a questionnaire or a survey. If you want to grade it, if you want to turn it into a quiz, okay, you want to give points, you want to give scores, in that case, you click on quizzes. This is the option, and make it a quiz. So I select this. When I turn the slider on, this becomes a quiz. And then it would ask me whether I want the scores to be available to the learners immediately after they submit the quiz, or do they should it be released after I review the responses, and should I be releasing it when I review it and then send it across to them? So you could select accordingly. And then whether you want your respondents, your students, to see the correct answers, do you want them to know their point values, their scores, do you want them to see which questions they missed, all of that is possible. So you select appropriately and click on save. Okay, so now in this case, so you see here, I want to convert this into a quiz. So right now, by default, it is showing 0 points. Okay, it is showing 0 points. And let me just go here and show you how to. So there is this option here, preferences. I click on this, and I can have a shortcut setting here which says that the default quiz point for each question could be set to, let's say I select it to 1, and then I save it. So in that case, the questions will automatically will have the option of the points as 1. Okay, so I will go back here And let me see. I will say this. And let's say here. Okay. Meanwhile, let me tell you how to send this across to the learners. Okay. So I click on send. So when I click on send, I can see different options here. You could either send in as an email. So let's say I want this to be sent to um, you can put in the email IDs of your students or any whoever you want this form to be sent to. You could click on this if you want it to be embedded in the email, or the other option is set to send it in the form of a link. Okay, so this is the form link. You could copy this and send it across to your students either through WhatsApp, through Google Classrooms, through Teams chat, through mail, through whatever medium. Okay, so you can also shorten the URL if you want to and copy this and send it across. So this form will be available for the students to respond. The third option that is available is the embed HTML. So in case you want to embed this form to your website, in that case, you could go for the embed HTML. Now this says that it is not possible because it has a file upload question, and that is why it is not permitting that option. So I'm going to now uh, remove the file upload question. Okay, where is it? This one. Okay, so let me remove this question. So I have removed this question. And now you see, it will allow you to embed this HTML code in your website. So you copy this and you share it in your website. So these are the different ways by which you can send this form, either via email or through the form link or embedding it in your website as the HTML code. So these are the different options. Now I'll take you to some more options here which are available. One is undo. You can make a copy of this entire form. Move to bin is to delete this form. Get pre-filled link. So this is again an important option. So if you click on this, you will get the form and you could fill in the options and then send the link of that pre-filled link form to your students. So a lot of times you want your students to know what should be the correct answer, for a given question. So probably you've given them a text-based question or a paragraph question, and you want them to know what are the points that are needed in the answer. So in that case, you may click on this get pre-filled link, fill in the answers, and send that link across to your students. The next option is the print option. So print option will allow you to print this form. Add collaborators is a very important option wherein it will allow you to work on the same form with your co-teachers. So let's say I'm working with my parallel teacher and I want my parallel teacher also to add some questions to this, or I want my parallel teacher to review the questions before I send it across to my learners. So in that case, I will be able to add the teacher as a collaborator. So when I click on this, so it says that I can add people. So as many people that I want to. So let's say I'm adding this teacher, and automatically, as you can see here, the access changed to editor, which means that this teacher, this collaborator will be able to make the changes to my form. So when I send this across, this form will reach my collaborator, and she or he will also be able to make changes to this form. So that is about a collaborator, very, very useful uh, for the educators, because it will allow multiple people to work on the same form and add questions. The other thing is add-ons. So there are a lot of add-ons that you can add to your form. Like if you want to restrict or set time and date, even that is possible with a number of add-ons which you would be able to add to your Google Forms. For today, I am not going to talk about that, but then there are a variety of them. You could explore those options. And preferences, as I said, these are shortcuts which you could settings that you could make to your forms. Like by default, if I want all my questions to have one point or 1 mark, so I could set it to 1, or if I wanted to set it to 2, or I want all my forms to collect emails, even that setting could be done. So that is a shortcut setting. And all my questions, if I want to make it required, even that could be done with the help of this setting. So if I save it, that will apply to all the forms that I make. So that is about the send option and the various options that we have in forms. Okay. So here, what I'm going to do now is take you to, okay, just a minute. So the other thing is, how do you get the responses from the students? So I go to this response option here. I click on responses. So you see here, this form is accepting responses. So if you want to stop students from filling in the responses, you turn this off. You turn it on, which means that the form will continue to collect the responses as long as the access of the form is with the students. Now, the other thing is, where do you want the form to collect the response? So here, you can see here, when I click on this, it says that you can collect the responses from the students in the form of a spreadsheet. So if I click on create a new spreadsheet by the name of the form, because I named my form bootcamp session on forms, it took that name by default, and a spreadsheet by this name will be created in my Google Drive, and all the responses will be saved in my Google Sheet. Okay. Or I could also want the responses in an existing spreadsheet. So let's say I already have a spreadsheet of my students with their personal information, and I want this data also to be added to the same spreadsheet. So in that case, I could select an existing spreadsheet, and when I do that, it will ask me which existing spreadsheet would I want this form to be added. So I would select that, and this response will again get added to the same spreadsheet. So right now, I'm going for the first option because I want a new spreadsheet to be created for this particular form. So I say create, and a new spreadsheet is created. So this is the spreadsheet that is created, and this is saved in my Google Drive. So as you can see here, the email address, because I had asked for the email address, then the name, all of my questions will appear here, and the responses, because right now this is not shared with my students, so there are no responses. So once they start sending in the responses, all these responses will be saved in this spreadsheet. Okay. Now I will now take you to maybe some forms in my drive. All right. Okay. Let me see this one. An event registration form. So you see here. So variety of forms can be prepared, and all the forms that you prepared will be saved in your Google Drive. Okay. So I am now coming back to my original form. Let me close the others. I'm going back to my questions. So just 5 minutes for the session to end. So this is how you create a form on Google. It's a free tool, easily accessible. All that you need is a Google account. Extremely useful for educators. So at this point, I think I will stop my session here, and I would ask you all to fill in the feedback form. And yes, so Puchika, if you could help me with sharing the feedback form in the chat. So I will stop sharing screen. Yes. So Puchika, if you're there.
Yes, ma'am, I've shared the feedback form. Thank you everyone for coming. I would request everyone to just fill the feedback form, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for joining. So can I leave the session now?
Yes, ma'am, sure. Thank you everyone for coming once again. Please fill the feedback form. It is right here in the text. I will share it again in the comment box. Thank you so much.